All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As you're coming in, I hope you're having a wonderful end of your day. Oh, Carrie, it's so good to see you on here. I was hoping that you had gotten this information to be able to attend. I apologize I didn't send you a direct message, but so glad that you're here. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our information session about becoming a CLEP testing center with MACAE. We are recording today's session because I know that there are some people that couldn't make it. I'm going to step out of the way here in just a second after a few housekeeping and let the real expert, our friend Ginny Barron, talk. But if you want to say hi in the chat, you can go ahead and do that. Just put your name and your program. Ginny is going to kind of talk us through the different steps. This is a formal presentation, obviously, because we're recording, but I hope that we'll also be able to treat it kind of as informal. So Ginny is invited. If you've got questions, you can put them in the chat. We can unmute at any time, pause, ask questions. We want this to be interactive and not just us reading slides to you. So really, just to kind of give you a little bit of background, we have been approached by College Board as a part of a larger initiative to look at helping more adults and youth transition to the college system. And that's a very broad conversation, as we know, and this came up as an opportunity, is that there's an ability, certainly from youth and adults that are transitioning, to participate in CLEP testing, which we'll talk about today, and potentially test out of a number of credits that they can earn and not have to obviously utilize college tuition funds, personal finances, or other grant opportunities in the completion of a ongoing degree, baccalaureate degree or associate's degree at college. So I think it's something that would be very timely and important for our adult learners. I know that many of our adult programs are situated as already being a Pearson VUE testing center, so you're already familiar with what it means to administer testing. We also know that we're familiar with how to administer CASAS and tape testing and all those things. So I don't think that's going to be too out of the norm for us. So if you got questions, again, you can put them in the chat or unmute. And without further ado, I want to turn this over to Ginny Barron from CLEP Testing and the College Board.
Hey, thank you, Patrick. You already sounded like the expert with those introductory remarks.
A lot of hot air, Ginny. A lot of hot
air. Oh, you got it. So thank you for the opportunity to chat with y'all today. So I was in Michigan, Kalamazoo last week. I was just telling Patrick, so got to enjoy the spring weather in Kalamazoo last week. So it was good to be there. And I think some of you stopped by the booth and said hi to me. I was with my colleague from the AccuPlacer program. So thanks for doing so, because some of you said, I think I'm going to be attending your session next week. So again, my name is Ginny. Let me just click through here. Here's my contact information. If you're like me, and today, like Patrick said, I'm pretty informal. I think I over prepare sometimes with my PowerPoint, so I don't want to bore you to death by this, but I did want to share some information. I think it's helpful if we all can be on the same page of what CLEP is. I think it's tricky when we talk about different populations who can benefit from CLEP. We have a preconceived idea sometimes, so I'd love to help kind of hear what those concerns, questions are, and see if there's new populations that we should be talking about, or want to hear from some other folks in the field that really is working out there. So I wanted to share an overview and share out some resources, especially around some free resources that in turn makes CLEP free for students. So when we talk about increasing access and opportunity to college, anything that we can do to help cut down that barrier of finances is important, as well as the access to the testing. I note here that I put Q&A at the end, but again, super informal. There's just, under 20 of us. So if you're comfortable unmuting and asking me a question, feel free to jump in. We will make a copy of this presentation available. So if you want it, I know Patrick said the recording will be shared out, but if you just want some of the material in today's presentation, I'm happy to share that out too. All right, no need to take any fast and furious notes then. That's your clue that you can kind of kick back and listen and ask questions as we go forward. We were talking about acronyms earlier today. So, much as the association is an acronym, so is CLEP. So CLEP stands for the College Level Examination Program. CLEP is almost as old as I am, so we've been around for over 50 years as a credit by opportunity to help students show what they know. There's no prescribed coursework or curriculum, but it's an assessment piece. It's a valid, reliable tool then that students can show mastery of college level material, however they learned it. When we think about CLEP, our original target market were those adults returning from either workplace or military, coming back to college, so maybe the older non-traditional adult, who isn't coming as an empty shell, but has a plethora of experience and is just looking at a way to validate that. So we know that colleges and universities have many ways that they count for PLA, whether it's a portfolio or an assessment or a challenge exam. And CLEP is the standardized program created by College Board to standardize that and make college credit more available to students. When we talk about CLEP, we have a broad range of exams in 5 categories. So it includes the history and social science area, business, kind of an underutilized area, composition and literature, science and mathematics, and world languages. So when we work with our adult population, sometimes they may be like myself, probably as I was entering college, I was more of a traditional student, but I thought in my head, I'm bad at math, so I probably would have stayed for that. But in my head, I'm also like, I'm a really good writer and I like to write, and I've written all through my K-12 career. So that might be something with a little more study that would have been an attractive thing. So sometimes when you're working with adults, not all of us have skills in all these areas, but they might have a skill in an area that then could lead for them with continued study and preparation to be successful in CLEP exams. The prime example of this that I often use is, you'll see that we have the world language exams. So we have French, German, and then we have 2 exams for Spanish, Spanish language, which is multiple choice and a listening component. And then we have Spanish with writing, which is multiple choice, listening, but then also 2 short essays. And so when we talk about our CLEP exams, Spanish language has been our most widely used CLEP exam for the past 10 years or so. When you think about earning college credit for what you know, that CLEP Spanish language exam does exactly that. So if you're working with heritage Spanish speakers, it can be really a great way to earn that college credit for what they know. And with the world language exams, they can earn 6 to 9 college credits. And sometimes it just puts them on the trajectory of changing their mindset about college going culture. Like, I earned this many credits, what else do I need to do to continue that pathway? Business courses, oftentimes we might have adults who are doing some type of work in a business and now they're seeking a degree of some type or a credential. So if they have some basic business skills, most of these are foundational courses that lead to either an associate degree or a bachelor's degree in business. Again, CLEP is developed by college and university faculty, so we work with the American Council on Education. So again, it is college level content covered by CLEP exams. Our faculty come from 2-year, 4-year, public, private, and geographically all over the country. Really, they're subject matter experts. We want to make sure that the content of CLEP is mirroring what's being taught across college and university campuses. A few more, as my daughter would say, fun facts about CLEP. CLEP exams are timed. They're delivered digitally. So most exams are 90 minutes in length, multiple choice. Couple things students say that they love about CLEP. One is that they receive their score reports immediately. So a student's at a computer, they hit submit, and their score will show up. We do have 2 exams. I'd mentioned Spanish with writing, but we also have a college composition exam that has a writing component. So for those exams with writing, it's not immediate score. They hit submit, the writing sections get sent out to be scored by their respective faculty committee members on the CLEP subject committees. And then that written score is added to the multiple choice score, and students would receive those results in about 2 weeks. But again, students like that immediacy of results. They take their exam, they hit submit and see their score. The other piece that students love about CLEP is that there's no preset exam administration dates. So whenever they're ready, summer, spring, fall break, laid up with a broken leg in the hospital, and might as well study for a CLEP exam. So whenever the student's ready to take an exam, they can do that. For students who don't earn a score they like, we do have a 90-day retest policy in place. When you talk about the scoring of CLEP, it's sometimes a little tricky. So CLEP is a scaled score, so each item is weighted differently based on the difficulty. So once the student answers the questions, all those items are weighted, and then the score is put on a scale of 20 to 80. Again, we work with the American Council on Education, who recommends a college credit granting score of 50 across all exams. I'll share out with you a link to what we have done with the Michigan Department of Education, because there's funding for low-income Michigan high school students currently to take CLEP exams for a reduced fee. So we've been working with the Michigan Department of Education to update the CLEP policies for Michigan public 2-year and 4-year. So again, while ACE recommends a score of 50 across all subjects, we know that in Michigan, that each institution has its autonomy to determine their own CLEP scores. I am happy to report that many of the community colleges seem to follow the ACE recommendation, again, 50 across all subjects. We have a really great advocate in Brandy Johnson, who now is at the director of the Michigan Community College System. In fact, she noted one of the community colleges had a higher score and reached out to them, and they put it back to the 50, the ACE recommended score. I will say, I think in Michigan, that the flagships, I know you're blue or green in Michigan, right? So the University of Michigan and Michigan State.
Blue's the better color, Jenny, I'm just saying.
I don't even get into it because I'm from Minnesota, so we're maroon and gold over here. So, but with the flagship schools, we oftentimes see that their CLEP policy isn't as all-inclusive as some of the non-flagships. Again, things that we at the CLEP program continually work with those institutions. I think as we see a growing number of students who perhaps come to the institutions, they may or may not be more willing to revisit those policies. Currently, the cost of a CLEP exam is $89, and so that's a college board paid to the college board. We are increasing the price. We've stayed at $89 through the pandemic, so since 2019. We will be increasing the exam fee this year to $90, so a whole $1. So CLEP is on sale between now and June 30th. So July 1st, CLEP will be $90 per exam. When we talk about CLEP, the other thing I wanted to mention, which I didn't mention right here. So when I talk about CLEP is delivered digitally, it does mean two different things. One, it can be CLEP can be taken at a CLEP test center. Several years ago, I think in 2018-19 is when the funding for high schools, and we had one CLEP test center in a Michigan high school. We're now up to about 48 or 49 high schools are CLEP test centers. So any entity that's involved in educational delivery can become a CLEP test center. There's no cost. It's just really a matter of having the equipment, setting that up, training the staff who administer CLEP exams. And again, there's no exam administration dates. So if you work with a population that is large enough to want to explore that opportunity to offer CLEP at your site, we can do that too. You can reach out to me and I can walk you through those steps. And I'll share just an additional opportunity for CLEP test taking. I wanted just to share out, this is some Michigan data. So again, over the past several years, this shows, the purple line shows the total number of exams taken, and then the light blue line is those scores of 50, again, those college credit granting scores. And this is a definite pandemic trend that we saw. So again, CLEP has always been offered at a CLEP test center. In March of 2020, most of those test centers were at college and university campuses. They were shut down or drastically reduced due to social distancing guidelines. And so we know that we've seen this drop off in CLEP participation. I also know that this is 2019-2020. We're wrapping up the 2021-22 school year, and there's been a slight uptick. And we think we'll be at a pre-pandemic level, making CLEP available to more students within probably at the end of this year or early next year. The other piece of data that we collect, so this is Michigan specific. So we ask test takers at the time of testing, what's your current educational level? And so we'll see in Michigan, and again, this is for the school year that ended in spring of 2020, just a tough school year to get data from. But we'll see about 10% of the test takers said they were high school students. 12% were the high school graduates. So again, those who finished high school but hadn't entered a post-secondary institution. 30% were college freshmen, which is way above average. I think national average is about 11%. 10% were sophomores, 9% juniors. The largest participants in CLEP historically for college age student is college seniors. So think of that as they're preparing to graduate, they realize they're short some credits and CLEP comes in clutch. That's why this is really kind of heartening for me to see that students are thinking about CLEP in Michigan. It looks like 30% are looking at CLEP as they're entering the institution, which is some great academic advising likely taking place across the state. I'm going to try and share this video. Someone here, I don't even have my chat open. So if y'all have questions, sorry if I'm annoyed. So let me just go do some questions quick. So does this include AccuPlacer to ensure our students are ready for college? Sorry, AccuPlacer is a separate college program, reading, writing, math. So CLEP, AccuPlacer are two separate programs. Someone asked about, do all Michigan colleges and universities accept the test results credit? Yes, but not all Michigan colleges and universities accept each CLEP exam. So I hope I answered that, and I'll share a link with you. Can Michigan Works pay for this as a support service? Yep, adult education providers can't pay for testing fees, and some students will not be able to afford the test. Great question. I'm going to share with you some information around how Michiganders can have CLEP paid for through a partnership we have with Modern States. Does the high school data include GED? When we have test takers identify who they are, their educational level, it's self-identified. So if I'm a test taker and I say I'm currently in high school, that could mean I'm working on my high school diploma or I'm working on my GED. So not super clarifying there for you. I apologize for that. Here's a great question. How is CLEP similar and different from AP? So those of you who know College Board, we have this other product called Advanced Placement. Advanced Placement at its inception was designed for high schools and high school students. So not only is an assessment in spring delivered once a year in May for the 38 subjects, it also includes curriculum and training of the teachers to teach the content, as compared to CLEP, who has administered any time in the year, no curriculum, just the assessment piece. So similar and different, the two. We work well, we play well together. Let me see if I can share. This is a person out of Michigan. We collected her story, who is working as an educational interventionist. And the district that she works in is trying to help their staff continue on with their educational journey. And they found CLEP as a way to promote that. So let me just, I never know with video on Zoom. Let me see if I can get this to.
I don't see it, Jenny, but
Okay.
if you, towards the end, if there are more questions, what we could do is if you send me it, I could try to pull it up for us, and then we could do it towards the end if that works.
That totally works. Thanks for letting me know, because it's, sometimes it's been it's Ginny's struggle. It's not the technology.
No, it's all of us for sure.
No, thank you for letting me know. CLEP for adults. So this happened in Michigan. So again, as most of you are familiar with Michigan Reconnect, as that was coming out, there was a blip probably the day before where we had agreement with Modern States Educational Alliance. So Modern States started in 2017 with the catchphrase freshman year for free. So Modern States was trying to determine a way to help make college more affordable. So Modern States has created free online courses in all CLEP subjects. So again, remember when I said that AP has curriculum with an assessment at the end, and CLEP was only the assessment. Modern States has filled that gap by creating these free online courses. So they're online. A student can do it through offline through the Modern States website as well. Lectures, practice questions. And so Modern States is part of their initiative for learners who complete a Modern States course. Modern States will fund the $89 CLEP exam fee. As we were growing CLEP in Michigan with high school folks, some of the adult population said we could really use this for the rest of our population. And so Modern States at that point in time had committed $1 million, which equals about $10,000 CLEP vouchers for Michiganders who complete a Modern States course and are interested in taking the CLEP exam. I'm going to skip over, just a little bit more about Modern States. Here's their website, so modernstates.org. Again, free online on-demand courses in all CLEP subjects. Taught by college and university professors from Rutgers and USC, all across the country. Everything with the Modern States courses are free. Again, the courses, the textbooks, any materials. We find that students can spend anywhere from 20, Modern States will say 20 to 50 hours of instruction. And I'll say that's highly dependent on the learner. I had a young superstar out of, I can't think of, Plainwell High School in Michigan, who said she took the Modern States college composition course. She'd done lots of writing in high school, and she said she only spent about 8 hours preparing for the CLEP exam with the Modern States course. So really dependent upon the learner, but they have access to lectures and again, links to those free materials. So really great for auditory learners. Again, CLEP prior to Modern States was really focused on preparing through reading primarily. So now with the addition of these courses that can provide lectures, auditory learners tend to do well. Again, there's no cost, so a student can take their time and get through the course at their own pace. And again, through the course, there's practice questions. And then at the end, students can have the opportunity to take a practice CLEP exam. And if they score 75% on that simulated exam, Modern States would in turn pay their $89 CLEP exam fee and then any other associated costs to taking the exam. Again, this is how the Modern States program works. So as a learner, I can register for a course at modernstates.org. Once I complete, I email Modern States, they'll send me that voucher. I register for my exam and I put that voucher code in as a form of payment. I then schedule my testing appointment. So on the College Board website, there's a space where a student can type in their zip code and look for a CLEP test center within their region. And I'll talk about this in just a second, students can take CLEP exams via remote proctoring. Again, students will get their score immediately. And then if there was any test admin fee, if a student perhaps goes to a college or university that charges that fee, the student gets reimbursed that amount as well. Again, I mentioned when we started, there was most college and universities in Michigan are test centers. Here's the link to where a learner test taker can find that. Since the launch of this, we've expanded. So Utica Community Education Center has opened a test center, again, looking at adults, community members in total can take a CLEP test at Utica. Michigan Works Oakland was our first Michigan Works office to offer CLEP exams. I don't know if either of those have, both of these launched during the pandemic, and so we know that priorities have shifted to the needs of what learners have at that point in time. So I'm not sure if either have officially administered an exam, but we will sing and dance when that happens. If you're interested about, more interested in about becoming a CLEP test center, this QR code can bring you right to that.
Jenny, can I ask a quick
Yeah.
question here?
Yeah.
When you, could you talk just briefly about that process and what are the kind of technical requirements? 4 steps? Okay.
We got 4 steps. I think sometimes I'm not an IT person, as you'll find out when I describe the steps. And so sometimes I think we get bogged down in the weeds, but let me tell you the 4 steps. The first step is, if you're interested in becoming a CLEP test center, it's first completing an application. It's available at a password protected site on our website. So again, it's just a matter of sending an email to clep@collegeboard.org, and we would give you access to the resource center. So once you complete your application, our operations team will vet you to make sure, in fact, you are an educational entity and not someone trying to offer CLEP in your basement. So once you're vetted, the second step would be to complete a contract. So there's just, with the test security, there's just contract understandings between CLEP, and we work with ETS, Educational Testing Services, who runs the unified platform, the platform that CLEP is on. So we'll help execute that contract. The third step is identify who's going to be the primary test center administrator. So that person then would receive credentials to be trained through an online learning module to administer the CLEP exams. So learning all about what CLEP is, test security, accommodations, what happens if there's an irregularity in an exam administration, how to contact the help desk. So once that person or persons, you can have multiple people depending on your center, go through e-learning. It's much like we do that, our HR stuff has us do that here, where you have to take different learnings and then you get a certificate when you're done. And so once you're done with the e-learning, you'll get a credential that will allow for you to administer the exam. Once that's done, then the technical setup. So for offering CLEP, you do need to have a Windows-based machine or 2. We don't have a requirement of how many workstations you need. So sometimes, especially if you're only going to be testing, once a week or whatever, there's no admin dates. So you can determine how big your test center is. So one machine has to be a Windows-based machine that it acts as the admin station. So it launches the exam. And then however many tests you want to administer at the same time, or however many students you want to test, that's how many additional Windows-based machines you need. So sometimes it can be a 1-on-1, or sometimes it can be a 1, and I think it can go up to 15 computers through that one admin station. All Windows-based. And we have IT support through ETS. So when you get to that setup place, you can have ETS on the phone to walk you through. If you have IT staff, great, but if you don't, very rarely do we hear any difficulties with the IT setup. It seems like it runs pretty smoothly. I see stuff in the chat. Let me just see. If you're an ETS HiSET testing center, yes. If you're already offer HiSET, which is an ETS product, I think that makes this much easier. CLEP has separate credentials, login. Again, we tie just with the security. CLEP is considered high stakes just because of the number of college credits that earn. So we're really concerned with that security. And so we connect each CLEP test center to a physical mailing address, and we can see what session I don't see any of it. ETS can see what session. So if there is any questions, concerns, they can track that down. But I think it would be much easier if you're a HiSET center, much easier, a little bit easier. I don't think it's a big leap for non-HiSET test centers to do this. As a CLEP test center, would we be paid per test? This is a great question. So College Board does not have any commitment to payment of test centers, but test centers can charge a fee. So when we talk about our college and university partners out there, they are charging fees. It's a revenue generator for the college or university. Right now, I would say the average, I think I'm already dating myself. I used to say $25, but I have a feeling it's gone up to $30. So the student again pays the $89 CLEP exam fee to College Board, and then they schedule that appointment. Let's say they're going to, I'll just say Kalamazoo, or is it KBCC college, because I was just in Kalamazoo. They would call, schedule the appointment there, and then pay that fee to them. And I'd say it's pretty close to $30. So whether or not you want to charge that fee is really dependent upon the test center themselves. Some do because they need to help fund, whoever it is that's going to be administering the exam, and others do not, and think of it as a service to the students, the community. Again, if they're a Modern States learner using that voucher, Modern States would reimburse that student that test admin fee. So if you plan to use Modern States, again, that would be a revenue stream then that your test center could receive.
Jenny, how long of or how many hours do you think someone dedicates to, like, if I'm the administrator, the site administrator going through the modules of preparation, how many hours average do you think that probably takes?
Okay, so I'm a less than average learner, and I did it myself because I wanted to feel what it was like. And so I think it took me, and then I didn't do it all in one day. I'm not that type of learner either. So I think over the course of a week, it took me maybe 5 hours in total. You do have to at the end, there's a, my memory, 20 question exam, and you do have to get 100%. And if you don't, it will just, kind of rephrase the question, and you'll continue to have to take that exam until you get that 100%. So it's a little bit of an investment, I understand. It wasn't super painful.
No, that's not at all. I appreciate that. And I will just say, Erica Luce, the Adult Education Services Manager at our Adult Education Office, and I have had some conversations about, we have a number of WIOA dollars, which is the Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, that were not utilized this year because of continued complications from COVID-19. And we had a conversation about if programs could be those that go through the process or are working towards the process of becoming a CLEP testing site, because it aligns with our state's 60 by 30 goal,
right,
that we could cover the initial startup costs for those programs. So we could cover, a set of hours for someone to go through the process and become the administrator. So I know for our listeners, our program providers, some of you may want to just work on your own through that process and get it done. But I will keep my foot on the pedal on that end of things, because I know we're going into the summer months where staffing is maybe more limited, or we're coming to the end of a budget year and we don't necessarily maybe have more funds to have people work a few extra hours to do this. So just wanted to offer that up as continued conversation as well. So thank you, Jenny. Oh, and it looks, Jenny,
I love that.
Before you move on, it looks like Christy Nelson has a question. Her hand is raised.
I just was, wondering about how worthwhile this was as an opportunity for our students to test out of things. We're all about speeding up processes. I looked at our 5 different community colleges in our region, and it very clearly spells out very easily what credits they accept and what's the passing score on it. So, if you're utilizing that for your customers, I do believe that, the question was asked, would Michigan Works cover that cost? It would totally depend upon the Michigan Works, how they would pay for it, how they pay for training. So that is a feasibility, because it's credits, you're just testing out of them. So I would think that would be logical. I asked our Michigan Works, and they said definitely it would be a consideration, but they would have to research it more. But I think there would be a valid, especially with all our Future for Frontliners, Path 2 monies, really would speed up the process. Adults don't have 4 years to spend in college, or 2 years. So any way that they could speed up that process would really be for them and for us for completion rates. It would help speed up completion rates. So just a comment.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I was just at a community college directors meeting, And the fact that so many community colleges think that the adult comes as an empty shell, and then here's your 60 prescribed courses, is a turnoff to the adult learner. So I think finding those subjects where they can accelerate because they're self-motivated, they have some experience and a little more learning to do that, is really, honoring that learning. And then I think will help their motivation in a timely manner, affordable manner. Yeah.
I also want to say that, I'm a little bit frustrated with Michigan in the sense that when people take GED tests, if they score at the GED credit level, they're not going to give them credit for it. So this is another way to kind of back end way to get those credits. If we know those people will score high enough on those other tests, on the GED test, they certainly probably can do it on the CLEP test.
That's another great piece that I take note of, because I think I've been asked that question before, if we have any crosswalks or predictors, from GED or HiSET, prediction on how they would do on CLEP exams, and we don't. What I hear is mostly anecdotally, some really great advisors who sit down with students after they complete. I had a woman out of Maine who ran the GED, and she said, I could tell right away by these scores of who would do well on what type of CLEP exam. So unfortunately, I don't have the formula of that, but trust your professionals who see those students come through and probably can, especially if we can make it a no-cost solution, if they just do some review through Modern States and give it a shot to earn college credit. Let me just go through the chat. Do they have help in Michigan, or is it just help from California? So we have IT people on the phone, so they can help anywhere. What's the average length for a student on a test? Again, 90 minutes is the full amount of time students have on the multiple choice. I would say CLEP has the ability to, obviously, for students who need an accommodation, time is the number one, so they can have extended time. I would say it depends by test, so no great answer for you there. But 90 minutes is what they need to be allotted for those exams. The two that have the writing component, it's 110 minutes. So if you're thinking of staffing time, that's how long you have to be available for a student to test. Is there a minimum number of hours that a test center has to be open per week? No, there is not. We have the ability on our website. So I have on the slide behind us, or this slide here that says find a test center. We have the ability, if you don't want to be open to the public, you only want to serve your own clients, students, that we can make you limited. So you wouldn't show up in this search. That's what our high schools do. As you can imagine, high schools can't really have adults from the community to come in for lots of legal reasons, security reasons. So if you don't want to be open to the public, but just refer your own students, we'll keep you limited, and you'll just let us know that during the process of becoming a CLEP test center. Goes back to Carrie. Do you see the state and feds allowing students with a score of 50 to count as an MSG? I don't know what that word. There's an acronym, I don't know. Even if they don't enroll in college right away?
So it looks like Ginny and Carrie responded to that in the chat.
Oh,
so
okay. Okay.
We have kind of answered that for today.
All right. Oh, thank you about the HiSET. So we can only get help on the phone after 10 a.m. because of the time difference. Oh, ETS is on WIOA. Our ETS support desk is out of New Jersey, so they're Eastern time zone. Interesting. Maybe they have different support centers based on the product. Future for Frontliners Path 2 funding we get for enrollment, and there's a lot of acronyms in this question.
so yeah, no, go ahead, Christy.
I laugh because I'm not, CLEP is an acronym myself.
Yeah, we're just paying you back, Ginny, that's all. Okay. So we get that extra money, and the state staff, we still haven't given real good direction on how we spend those funds that we earn. It seems to me that this would be a good resource to use, to use this in this venue, to use that money that we get to support those CLEP tests.
Yeah, and I will admit that I'm just learning about Path 1, Path 2 was the first time I heard that in depth at the conference last week. So I just known about Future for Frontliners, wasn't that familiar with Path 1 and Path 2. So Patrick's just nodding his head, so taking notes. So maybe to be determined would be an answer to that one.
Christy's usually right, so I always nod along with Christy. Christy says things. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Christy. You got resources available. So just Jenny, so you know that for Futures for Frontliners, for programs that have a grant agreement for that, and when they have eligible students that are enrolled, they get reimbursed for the different services that they ultimately provide for that learner through the Future for Frontliners pathway, and those funds are supposed to be reinvested back into the program to support the ongoing educational supports of that learners and others. So this would be one area where you're, again, reinvesting those dollars back in your program to ultimately create other avenues for learners. So I think that's a very general description of the program, but I think it's a great idea.
No, it's super helpful. Thanks for the information.
Jenny, this is Carrie from the state office. And I would just echo what Patrick said. You said it beautifully, Patrick. Those dollars, Christy, we try not to give direction on those because we don't want to limit. And those dollars that you receive, that $250 fee, that $500 fee or payment, I should call them, you are welcome to spend those in any way that supports Futures for Frontliners participants. So if that's how you're using it, I think that's a great idea.
I'm guessing the same would be for the 23 plus students, right? When we get that, well, for those that have it, I don't have it, but for those who have that funding that they get, could probably use it for that as well.
Tammy, I've never read the policy on 23 plus, and I think it's an avoidance tactic on my part. I can't answer that for you, but Patrick, do you know the 23 plus language?
It's pretty consistent. It's pretty general, and says, I think Karen Govan and I were laughing at it because it's just like you described, Carrie. It's worded in such a way that says something to the effect of that it will help with the, future educational, programming or something like that. I mean, it's similar to
the way I understand it. It can be used for anything.
Anything minus pizza parties, Anne?
Including pizza parties.
Really?
Truly, that's what my understanding is, that you can use it for anything.
Celebrations.
Celebrations, yeah. Yep.
That's what now Carrie was just reinforced for her avoidance tactic because y'all answered her question for her and she didn't have to read the language herself. That's why it's
I can neither confirm nor deny Anne's statement.
I would say not pizza parties, but opportunities to overcome food insecurity, things like that would probably be more. If you need help with those things, let me know. Sorry, Jenny, we're getting you off here. You're doing a wonderful job. Extremely helpful.
I love the great brain power because really that's what I learned from you all too, because not every state is doing what Michigan is doing. I'm in other states are really just struggling to figure out how to support adults. They're sitting back going, we don't know how to reach them. We don't know where they are. We need help. And our enrollments are down. We're not going to meet our completion goals. So anything I can learn from Michigan, I really like to put on the stage in other states that I work with, because I think you're doing a lot of things right. I did mention, so we've talked a lot about CLEP test centers, and this is a pandemic, and I showed the decline over the 2021, 22 years, slight uptick now, but this became obvious during the pandemic as test centers were shut down. Remote proctoring of CLEP exams is now available. Right now we have 2,000 physical CLEP test centers, again, in those college and universities, the ones that I talk about in Michigan, the Community Ed Center, Michigan Works. We have some private test centers that developed. But with that being said, April of 2021, so last year, it took us a year to find a partner secure enough to meet College Board standards for remote proctoring. ProctorTrack is that partner. So ProctorTrack is the official only partner that can offer exams remotely. So if students have the equipment, and again, there's an access piece that concerns me, not all students will, so we still will continue to support the physical CLEP test centers. But if a student does have that equipment, it has to be, again, a PC-based desktop. It has to have a camera because the student has to scan the room. They have to have a private room. They can't take an exam in a classroom or a coffee shop or with kids and family present. No study materials on the wall, no smartwatches on. So remote proctoring is a great option. It's not an option for all students, but it is available to those who have the equipment. And again, if I look back to Modern States and that they pay for the voucher does have built in the ability to cover the cost of remote proctoring. So if you have adults who are looking to fast track time, going to do the Modern States, have the equipment to take the exam, they can do all that with no out-of-pocket expense. Yeah, so those who don't use Modern States and pay out-of-pocket, ProctorTrack is a $30 admin fee. Great questions. I was going to mention, we're talking about time. Someone talked about years. So CLEP scores right now are going to be in the student's account for 10 years. So we think of high school students who say, I'm going to Michigan when they're done and send their score there. And then our lives, you know, move and shift. But the students would have that score in their College Board account for 10 years. So as they re-enter college, maybe perhaps at 23 or 25 or 28, those scores will still be there and they can send that score to an institution for those 10 years at an additional fee. Resources. I talked about Modern States. Again, their website, modernstates.org, is fabulous. We have a link on our website, as well as this is just our College Board near and dear website. So resources for students and families. As you talk to adults, what we hear oftentimes is, how come no one's told me about this? Sometimes it sounds too good to be true, especially when you add on the Modern States modules or courses, free. It just doesn't seem legitimate. So our website can be a good resource to help familiarize students, learners of all ages with what CLEP is. I mentioned CLEP policies. This is not a very big piece. I was just going to share, this is the institutional policy page on the College Board website. So again, if a student wants to see what Grand Rapids Community College policy is, that's in the background, but they can click here. I would hesitate to say this is the be all and end all of an institution's CLEP policy, because CLEP, we rely on the institutions to come and tell us what that policy is annually, and it admittedly doesn't happen. So if you're working with a student and you know they want to go to Oakland, it's best probably to look at that Oakland site, the Oakland University, Oakland Community College site, to see what that CLEP policy is at the institution. And if you don't see one, it's probably still worth a call to admissions or advising, because oftentimes I've done the work trying to find policies, and oftentimes it's, as my manager would say, you have to know a guy. And sometimes they don't make it public for the reasons that we can understand. They're looking for college tuition. It's a little CLEP, but I see a shift in that happening, that more and more institutions are looking at how to take students where they're at and helping them cross the finish line. And another fun fact, for most of our CLEP, 80% of CLEP test takers take a single exam. So they're not earning degrees through CLEP. They're really saying, I have this one particular skill I'd love to receive credit for, and then they take the rest of the courses or show mastery of that knowledge in other different ways. But 80% of CLEP test takers are using it for one exam. I think that also speaks to the rigor of CLEP. I think other materials, these are free promotional materials. We found that this was not very helpful when we were in a pandemic, because most of them are printed materials. We have a CLEP store. We say store, but all of them are free. I think, again, sharing out what is CLEP tends to be a long conversation with lots of people. So we've created the information for test takers. We have some sample emails, probably more appropriate for college and universities, brochures, but you can just go to clep.org or email me and I can share the link out with you. So if you want promotional materials to have in your office to share it with folks, they're free. We're happy to mail them to your desk. And there we are. I said to, oh, look, I have a September date on the bottom of my PowerPoint. I know it's May. Y'all had so many questions going through, but if there is any questions that I haven't, that I've missed, or you have additional ones, we still have a few minutes. I welcome them. So much energy at the end of a day.
No questions for Ginny?
Ginny, is there a minimum age? Say if you have a really ambitious middle school student?
There is not. So we do have a form. So if they're under 13, yes, 1-3, there's an additional form that they have to have some sign off, parental sign off, especially in the days when they were going to a test center or even remote proctoring to be proctored by an adult. But no age. Yeah, we have some stories. You know who found CLEP first in that space of younger students was homeschool families and parents found CLEP.
Do that. Ginny, is there an extra cost, an additional cost for the remote delivery of the CLEP test?
Yep, there's a $30 fee for that.
Okay.
And again, if the student goes through Modern States, that's built into the voucher. So no out-of-pocket expense for a Modern States learner.
Great.
I had a question, Jeannie. How many American Job Centers have this testing? And I wonder how difficult it is to be a testing site if you're an American Job Center.
I would say 0.
Okay.
And I would say it's not, you know, there's the parameters. I think the staffing issue is always hard because think of what you do in an American Job Center and then you're going to add someone else's job duty to say, and now proctor a CLEP exam or administer a CLEP exam. So sometimes that gets more sticky than actually just opening a CLEP test center because they have to be live proctored. You can't just leave a student in a room.
Right.
You have to be monitoring that. So that's why CLEP is usually traditionally been done in groups or at a test center that has, and you could be administering a CLEP psychology, a CLEP American government, a CLEP college algebra all at the same time. But it's sometimes gets to be kind of spendy for a site that isn't doing a large volume, and it might be more worthwhile to remote proctor or send them to a nearby community college or university.
Well, we just do PASAS anyway and all that and GED, so we kind of thought, well, we could just add it on. But I can see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I can add one thing kind of along those lines, Karen and Jenny, I've had conversations with the Michigan Works Association, their CEO, Ryan Hunt, as well as the Michigan Community College Association. And part of doing this was that by having adult education or alternative education programs enter into this space, we didn't want to present like a competition about, oh my God, we're trying to oversaturate the area with CLEP testing centers and everybody is offering it. It's really about students and participants and getting them. And both associations felt very strongly that that wasn't even something that they had thought about. And so it really, that was good to hear that reciprocated because in to your point, Karen, is Ted, Jeannie's colleague, had shared the list of testing centers. And if you want to look at that, I'm happy to send that along as well for others in Michigan. And so in some of our areas, there are multiple testing centers already. And so you might want to look, I mean, some local high schools are already a testing center, but in other areas, there's a great, not really a lot. I mean, there's a great disparity in a number of testing centers. So I just think that it's worth looking at for all of our providers to kind of weigh it and look at it and see if that's because of our adult education population and the needs that we know that and the challenges that they may have. So I can also share that with you, Karen, and others.
Right. I mean, it's just, we have a different population that would enter.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, no, I just said we have a different population that would, versus a high school or a college.
Yeah. And just remember, a lot of those high schools, even though they're on the list Ted shared with you, they're not available to the public. They aren't going to let, they're not going to allow for an adult because they probably only test on Tuesday, April 22nd to their,
right.
Pre-calculus class.
Right.
So they're not going to be open on a Saturday for an adult to come and test. So take that into consideration. But yeah, we'd love to increase the accesses. We know that students like to be within 10 miles of their house, to have a CLEP test center there. I get remote proctoring is helpful a little bit, but it still doesn't have, it doesn't level the playing field for all.
Thank you, Jenny. Any other questions for Jenny before we let her go?
All right, invite me back to Michigan anytime.
Oh, absolutely. I'm already got my gears turning for the fall, and you coming back and doing a presentation for us and talking about all of this again. So next steps, I think Jenny's so gracious enough, she's going to send us this information again. We'll put together the links that she's included for how to start that process. It'd be wonderful to see some of our folks look at that as a summer project, because we all don't have a million things to do. But maybe on a dull afternoon, you're like, hey, I got some time, I'll become a CLEP Center administrator. And then I think we also as an association will follow up with that broader conversation about if there's some funding that could be available to provide to programs that are looking to become a test administrator. I know it's a minimal, I mean, some of us might already have it built in our capacity to do that, but that was a concern that a couple of programs raised, was that I don't have the additional resources right now to have staff come back for the summer, go through this process. So we working on that, but certainly leverage some of the other resources maybe that others have mentioned as well. I think it's going to take that multitude of resources to leverage those, and we'll kind of go from there. And then I would just say, if you go through that process and are looking to do that, if you can just keep us updated, we'd love to continue like a cohort that meets, periodically, and just share out how it's going, lessons learned from going through the process, and if there's any other resources that we can help along the way. And Jenny, if you would like to attend those meetings, I'm happy to have you there too. So.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll get this information out to you very shortly. Thanks all.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom. Bye now.